I have a quick shear on this week's Parshas Yisro, and it's Baal Shem Tov's thoughts on intentions of immersing in the mikveh.
So Baal Shem Tov teaches this week's Parsha and Parshas Yisro is a teaching from the Baal Shem that's brought down in Kedushas Levi, and it's brought down in the Alter Rebbe in the Siddur. With regards to the kavana, the intention of when a person immerses himself into the mikveh. Because this week's Parsha talks about Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, and we know that when the Torah was given, it says that to be skachtu, they had to sanctify themselves. So they immersed themselves in the mikveh before Matan Torah. Like it says, there was a stream that came out of Sinai, that flowed from Sinai, and therefore they immersed themselves in the waters of that stream before. That's the laws also of a ger, a convert, that has to accept the Torah and also go through the mikveh. Shachal Torah says that they immerse themselves in the nar dinar, in the mikveh of fire, but simply they immerse themselves in the mikveh. What is the intention what a person should have? Very bekitzer, very shortly. What is the intention a person should have when they go into the mikveh? So Baal Shem teaches that the mikveh has three dimensions. That the three dimensions of the mikveh is the floor of the mikveh, the four walls, which means the water of the mikveh, and then there's the gag, the ceiling of the mikveh, which means where you emerge from. So again, so there's the floor, the actual place that you're standing. You're immersed in a mikveh, so there's a place that you're standing. Then there's the waters that's surrounding you, and then there's the roof of the mikveh, so to speak, of the waters, where your head emerges from. We know from the Kesef Mishnah, we know that it's brought down many poskim, many commentators write that the tahara, the purity of a person, actually occurs when they're emerging outside the mikveh. When they're leaving the mikveh, that's when the purity occurs. So now the Baal Shem Tov teaches like this, that there are three divine names that are connected to the mikveh. The name Eheka, Aleph He Yud He, which also is brought down in the teachings of the Arizal, connected to Shem Eka. The fullness of Shem Eka is the same numeric value as the word mikveh and kas, etc. So Eka means I will be. The name Aleph He Yud He, that's the ceiling of the mikveh. Then there's the Dal Rucha Shel Mikveh, the four sides of the mikveh, which is the water of the mikveh, corresponds to the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei. And then there's a Karka mikveh, the actual ground of the mikveh is connected to the name of Aleph Dalet Nun Yud Shem Adnai. What does this mean? It means like this. What's the reason why a person immerses himself into a mikveh? A person immerses himself into a mikveh is because a person experiences some form of tumah, or because a person is changing their status. But the idea of tumah, what is tumah? Tumah comes from the word sasim, something that's stuck, something that's congealed, something that's blocked. Tahara, Torah, comes from the word tzoyer, which means brilliant. Ke'etzem hashamayim l'Torah, something that's transparent, that's flowing, that's easy. Tumah comes from things that are stuck. Anything that's form of death, that's why Tumah is always connected to death, which is endings and blockages and anger. Anything that's connected to that type of energy is connected to Tumah. A person that experiences Tumah wants to experience Tahara now, wants to become free-flowing, wants to become open. So what does a person do? The first thing you do is they step into the ground of the mikveh. When you step into the ground of the mikveh, you put your feet on the floor. Putting your feet on the floor is the name Adonai, Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. What is that name? That name of Hashem. That name of Hashem is connected to the presence of Hashem, the way it's revealed into this world. That name is the ground. That's the floor of your being. That's where you're standing, and that's a recognition of an acceptance of who you are right at this present moment. What's the situation? Who am I at this present moment? And what are the issues that I'm dealing with right at this present moment? And a full hachna, a full submission to the reality of who I am. I'm an angry person. I'm a tamei person. I'm impure. This is the reality of who I am. I own it. I own my thoughts. I own my feelings. I own my sensations. this is the person that I am. That's the first level. I put my feet on the ground. The second perspective is you look around and you sense that the water is surrounding you. What is the idea of the water surrounding you? The water surrounding a person, the difference between water is something that doesn't have form on its own. Water represents something that's infinite, something that doesn't have its particular form. When we're standing in the mikvah, we're surrounded by the water, that represents our infinite potential. So you're letting go of the first step is I own these things, this is who I am. The second thing is these are not me. These are my thoughts, these are my feelings, these are my experiences, but I am not my thoughts, I am not my feelings, I am not my experiences. I'm ayin. I'm empty of all these things. That's Avdal, that's a separation. That's the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei of that element. The third step is, it's not enough to let go. It's not enough to own and then to let go. But the third element is you have to emerge. You have to define yourself. What's the new identity? What's the Shem Eka? What's the name of becoming? Who am I becoming? So I entered in one state, and this is the person that I am. I let go of all these things, and now who am I becoming? And who am I becoming to assume a new tzur, a new form? That's when the purity occurs. When I'm actually leaving the cusp of that space, and I'm exiting from that place, that's when I actually experience the purity. And that's the three sacred names that we have when a person immerses. The first one is the name that I exist. Who am I right this present moment? The second one is who is my potential, because I'm infinite and I have infinite potential. I have these thoughts and I have these feelings, and maybe I'm angry, but I am not anger and I am not these feelings, and I let go of that. I'm like the water space that doesn't have form. And then the question is, how am I emerging out of this space in a healthy and wholesome way? That's what I'm talking, that's the sweetening process. So there's the achna, which is the humility, the humbling, the submission, which is the place that I'm standing on. Then there's a separation, which is the space that I'm within. And then there's a place that I'm emerging into, which is the sweetening of the self in a higher form, in a higher dimension, in a higher wholesome self. And these are the three basic meditations, basic intentions that a person has to have as they're entering and leaving this space. Okay. No, continue. We're going to continue. Yeshav. Okay?
Yeah.
What time is it?
9:10.
Oh, how about early?
9:15, no?
Yeah, but early is a big chiddush.
It's good. We have another shift.
Okay. Yeshav am lifnus boikel is on. Ready? Okay. So Parshas B'Shalach is a teaching that's brought down in the name of the Baal Shem from the Beis Yaakov, which is the Ishbitzer. He brings down a teaching for the Baal Shem, which is a little complicated, a little problematic. But we'll just read you the teaching, and then we'll explain why it's a little problematic, and maybe another way of deeper understanding it. Ma'aseh Baal Shem, there's a story of the Baal Shem, that there was once a person that came to the Baal Shem Tov and asked him that he read in the books of philosophy and according to the modern science at that time, it was understood that the miracle that occurred with the splitting of the sea, at that particular time, there was a certain current, a natural current, and because of that current, the water receded. And that's the nature of the water. The nature of the water is that it recedes. So he came to the Baal Shem and asked him, what's the big deal of why do they make such a big story of the sea splitting when this is actually a natural occurrence? It's a natural occurrence that it happens. It happens every once in a while that the sea splits. So the story is that Baal Shem Tov gathers all his people, and he says all the townspeople should come together, and he tells them like this. He says the question that people ask, that this is a natural occurrence, he says, they have eyes, but they're not seeing, they're not really perceiving what's really true in this world. He says, Bereshis bar Elokim. It says, beginning Hashem created. Elokim is Gematria Teva. The name Elokim when it says Bereshis bar Elokim, in the beginning Elokim created, Elokim is 86, which is brought down by the Ramak, is 86, and that's the same numeric value as the word Hateva, nature. V'Hateva ba'atzmei gamke bar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the truth is that nature itself was created by Hashem. So you're saying that what's the big miracle? What's the big idea? That the sea split for them and it's not miraculous because it's part of nature. So the Baal Shem Tov says, and what's nature? Nature is, it's an expression of Hashem. Elokim, Gematria Hateva. Elokim, the divine aspect of Elokim, is actually the numeric value of Hateva, which means that you're saying it's not a miracle, and the truth is that what is nature? Nature is the divine. And then the teaching continues like this, Leisane, that it says that the waters returned in the morning to its strength. So Chazal tell us, or sages tell us, L'tnai, this was a condition. That was a condition in creation that Hashem said to the creation. It says, I am going to create the sea, and I'm going to create a reality within you that you're going to split at a certain time period. And therefore, when it says that the sea returned back into its flow, it means that it went back to the original condition because it was conditioned in the beginning of creation to also split. So the truth is that a lot of the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov are repeated in the name of the Baal Shem, since the Baal Shem didn't himself write his teachings. So sometimes it's lost in translation. It's lost actually in the transmission of the teaching. And this particular teaching of the Baal Shem, certain other tzaddikim said that it's not a true teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. It doesn't come from the Baal Shem. Why? I'll explain why. One way to look at it is like this, and this is incidentally the way the Rambam, Maimonides, and the Ralbag, Levi Ben Gershon, they view the idea of miracles, which is like this: that in the beginning of creation, before the creation already occurred, there was certain conditioning within nature that Hashem conditioned the world in a way that when Klal Yisrael and the people of Israel were going to be next to the sea, originally part of the creation was that the sea should split. Which means, on one way, the way you look at it from this perspective, there's nothing really miraculous in this world. Nothing extraordinary out of the ordinary happens. Because everything that's extraordinary, everything that's miraculous that happens in this world was already preconditioned in creation. It's like a person sets up a system, and they set up the system that it works in a particular way most times, and once in a while the system works differently. So then, even when the system works differently and it's extraordinary, it's actually not really changing of the system. That's part of the system. So what you're reducing then, in the simple interpretation of this teaching, is what you're doing then is you're reducing the miraculous to natural. You're saying there's nothing miraculous in this world. Everything is natural. And it's true, it's created by the Creator, but everything is natural. That's one way of looking at it. But there's a deeper way of looking at it. This is, I think, what the Baal Shem Tov is really teaching on a deeper level. One way is to say that there's nothing miraculous, because it's part of the nature. But what Baal Shem Tov really says, Elokim Gematria Teva. Baal Shem Tov is saying that Elokim is a numeric value of Teva, of nature, which means not that there's nothing miraculous, but that everything is miraculous. Not that the miracle was conditioned within creation, and really the miracle is just a natural event. Because just like the natural event is normally for the water to flow, then there was an event, the part of condition in creation is that this water should not flow when Klal Yisrael reached the sea. So you're saying that there's the natural world, and the miracles is just unfolded within the nature. The Baal Shem Tov is teaching the opposite, that there's actually nothing natural in this world. You look at this natural world, what are you looking? You're seeing Teva. What is Teva? What is creation? What is the physical world? The natural world is actually a miracle. And the difference between something that's miraculous and something that we call, quote-unquote, is nature, is just a matter of our comfortability and expectability of that experience. If the sun shines day in, day out, we expect it to shine the next day. But the truth is, just like the sea splitting is miraculous, extraordinary, outside, and a complete revelation of the divine, the same thing also, every single blade of grass that is growing is an expression of the miraculous. Elokim, the divine, is expressed in the miraculous and outside of what we call nature and in nature. And nature is miraculous. So it's a completely different understanding. The first interpretation would say there's nothing miraculous and everything is nature because it's part of the natural world. But the Baal Shem Tov is saying, no, there's nothing natural. There's nothing natural in the world. There's nothing that's just nature. Nature is the divine. Nature is the miraculous. And this is a deeper understanding of how we're supposed to relate to every single aspect of our life. In the story of the splitting of the sea, there's interesting. After the sea splits, Klal Yisrael says Shira. They say a song. They recite a song. They chant a song. Moshe Bnei Yisrael together. Different opinions exactly how they did this, but they all sing a song. After they sing a song, then it says Vatan la Miriam. Miriam responds and says, Ashir la Hashem ki goiga sus v'recha ram vayam. Miriam responds, which means responding means she's saying, you're giving the men, you said a very long song. Let's cut to the chase. Let's say, what is the ikar? What is the main thing of the entire song? Ashir la Hashem ki goiga. Let's sing to Hashem because He's exalted. Sus v'recha ram vayam. The horse and its rider are cast into the sea. So Miriam sees that the most important element of the entire Shira is that the horse and the rider were cast into the sea. What does the horse and the rider have to cast into the sea? What's the big deal? So the horse and the rider were cast into the sea. Who cares? That seems to be like the crux of the entire Shira. And everyone asks this question. Everyone asks this question. Everyone asks this question. What is sus v'recha ram vayam? So one way to understand it is like this. Sus v'recha ram vayam means a horse. A horse that's being ridden was cast into the sea. There's a guy that's driving the horse. This is the natural way. This is teva. There's a horse rider, and the horse rider is riding the horse. If the miracle would occur that the horse is destroyed, or the rider falls off the horse, that's a shidduch merachas teva. That's the breaking of the nature. What was the miracle? The miracle revealed that sus v'roichvay, while the horse was being ridden by the horse, ram vayam. That means that the nature itself is divine. The nature itself is the miraculous. The horse doesn't have to disappear or collapse. Neither does the person have to fall off the horse. But the horse that's being ridden by the rider, simultaneously, while it's still being ridden by the rider, that in itself is divine. That in itself is miraculous. That's the oimik that's the depth of Kriyas Yamsuf. The depth of Kriyas Yamsuf, what the Baal Shem Tov is teaching, is the depth of Kriyas Yamsuf is the recognition that there's nothing natural. There's a guy riding on a horse, that's a natural thing. That in itself is divine. Whatever we see in this world, everything, you're walking down the street, you see a tree, you see a person, you see a car driving by, whatever you're seeing in this world, that is a miracle. What is a miracle? A miracle means that it's a revelation of the divine, of Elokus to you at this present moment. It's Elokim that's speaking to you through Teva. And there's nothing natural in this world. Everything is a divine. Everything is Hashem's expression. And this is the oimik, this is the deeper teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, which I think all the Chassidic rabbis will agree, is what the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov is saying. That not that there's nothing miraculous, because all miracles are unfolded already in the beginning of creation and its nature, but that everything is miraculous, and there is no nature whatsoever, and everything is the divine. Okay. Yeah?
Yeah.
What happened?
What?
What happened? Oh, you shut your phone.
Actually, yeah, I don't know, distraction from listening.